in just a second. But all of the videos are available online. They're available at the Annenberg site. And so anyway, hello, here we are. We're welcome. Right. We're doing our American cinema class. And we're starting a new term. And we're going to all fresh. And we're all ready to go, I hope, like I am. And we'll be able to look at a lot of cool movies and all that stuff. So let's just get started and see what this class is all about. First, you want to know, who am I? Okay, my name is Lucanio, and you'll find me over in the Forum Building, room 208. There's my phone number, but you don't call me. I have two email addresses, the campus email address and one that I've offered. So you can, the best way, of course, to get in touch with me is through email. I am here on campus 1 day a week during office hours. That's tomorrow. It's Tuesdays, 9:30 to 10:30. And if we, if we can't find that time, if you can't make it, we'll find another time where we can. Something about me, I've studied movies most of my life. I've taught movies. Most of my professional career has been involved with movies. I've written several books about them. I was a talking head in a documentary called Monsters from the Id. It has a website. I think it's still up there. I don't know. I didn't check. As a matter of fact, I was going to check today, and I didn't. I don't know if it's still there or not. It was such a successful movie, it might be gone by now. But at any rate, I've written several books about it. As you can see there by the titles of those things, I've specialized in vintage science fiction movies, primarily those that were made in the 1950s, because my specialty is film history, and I zero in roughly what I call the 1950s is roughly 1945 to 1965. And so that's what I've been doing. Those latest two books that I've worked on, one is called Science Fiction Theater. As you see there, I wrote a chapter on the history of the ZIV organization. And the other one was about the Rocket Men and children's clubs that they had when you can be a member of the secret squadron and that sort of thing. And if you send in the box top and all that kind of stuff. I also work with old time radio. I do edit a magazine called Radiogram. It's a national magazine, and it deals with the study of the spoken word. It deals with what is known as theater of the mind, radio drama, and that sort of thing. And since I work with that, I also work with Radio Redux here in Eugene. So if you ever wanted to see what it was like in the 1940s and the 1950s when they did a radio drama, you can actually see what it's like, because the people at Radio Redux, they recreate that whole atmosphere, everything about it, and it's done at the Holt Center and the Soaring Theater. And our next presentation is Casablanca, as you probably heard of that movie. And it was done on radio, and you'll see what it was like to do it on radio. Now, what I do there is I offer a little lecture. I do a lot of talking, and so I'm there before the show starts, and I talk a little bit about it. I'll give you the background about Casablanca. I'll be talking about Casablanca, the movie, and how it was turned into a radio drama, and how it even became a television series that was not very good. But at any rate, that's what I do. Okay, now that's enough of me. As I mentioned earlier, don't call me. There's no reason to, because as I said, I'm only on campus once a week. And what happens, of course, is that terrible telephone tag thing where you'll call me at 10:30 after I close the door, and I won't get the message until the next week. So I'll call you back, and you won't be home, and I'll leave the message, and blah, blah, blah. If you really want to get in touch with me, the absolute best way is email. And as I mentioned there, I have two email addresses. I check them throughout the day, both of them. So if you do have to get in touch with me, that is the absolute best way. Just don't call me. And, you know, that's what I'm saying here. You will use email. You will use email. You will use email. Thank you very much. Okay. The textbook that we are using is this one by Belton called American Cinema, American Culture. It does not matter what edition of the book you have. The bookstore tries to buy back the old editions and that sort of thing and put them there available, but actually, you know, all they can get really for a classroom is newer editions. But if you can find an old edition anywhere on this planet, and even if you can pick it up for $1, you're in good shape, because these videos go with this book. This book was written to complement the videos. And as such, nothing much has changed in the newer editions of the book. The only thing that changes in those newer editions is they talk about newer films, but the concepts, the ideas, the what makes a good movie, what makes a production, and all of that kind of stuff, that never changes. That's always there. So you'll find that in any edition of the book. So that's it for the book. Now, what is this course all about? Well, it is, as it states there, an introductory course, and it's an excellent introductory course that brings Hollywood, and that's its primary focus is Hollywood filmmaking, not international filmmaking. And the reason for that is because the Hollywood studios finance this video series. But it is Hollywood filmmaking into clear focus as, first, an art form. That I don't have to tell you. That you already know because you're college students. So immediately you default to, well, it's great art, but it is also an economic force. And what I tell all of my students, that when we talk about Hollywood film, let me tell you that the bottom line is all that matters. Movies are made to make money, not to make art, not to be celebrated. Now, they'll tell you differently, but the bottom line is Hollywood films are made to make money, big, big money. And they will do whatever they need to do to get you to part with your hard-earned money so it goes into their pockets. Now, after I say that, you know, everybody says, well, how dare you say that, especially on a college campus? Why, film is art, right? Well, yes, by default. Because we can still look at some very good films. Yes, their purpose for their existence, the reason for their existence is to make money, but you know, some very clever people made that film. And they made it in a very specific and certain way that causes a lot of us to look at that and say, you know, this is more than just business as usual. This resonates with a lot of things. We see things in here the same way that we would see in a painting. So yes, it is an art form. I'm not trying to say that it's not. I'm just being honest about it and saying that Hollywood films exist to make money. That's all. They do not exist for anything other than that. Okay, and lastly, a system of representation and communication. What it is that we have a system here. We have, you know, the movies are well over 100 years old. They have been in theaters. We have gone to see these types of things, and it becomes a system that communicates to us. And it's not just simply what we see in an individual film, but it's what do the movies as an entity, all of its own, what does it communicate to us? What does it all say? In other words, why do we have theaters? Why do we have cinemas? You know, the current term, they like to talk about, you know, cinemas instead of theaters. And what does all of that say? Because it is itself, it's an entity, and we continue to make movies. And as you will see in this video series here, towards the end of the term, is that we go beyond making movies now. It's bigger, it's larger than just making a movie. It becomes itself an event. What it becomes is something beyond just simply going to a theater, watching a movie, and you go home and say, oh, that was a nice diversion. No, it almost becomes part of life. And part of that also is if you go to this movie, especially if it's a comic book movie, and you see this movie, and when you're done, you go down to the store, and what do you find there in the toy section? But figures, little figures. You also get a phonograph. That dates me. I just, listening on the radio coming in today, some guy was talking about remember the phonograph? And he was making the claim they're coming back, LPs and all of that sort of thing. But at any rate, what we have are download the music from the movies. All of these things that are part of the movie, and yet they're not really of the movie. They're sort of just these auxiliary things there to do what? To make money. Okay, moving on. The American cinema probes the deeper meanings of American movies in this way. They look at the hidden messages of genres. That's their term. I don't like that term, but that's what they call it, the hidden messages that you find in genres. What is the real meaning behind film noir? What does that mean? What is the real meaning behind a science fiction movie? What are all of these things? There are hidden messages in there that somehow communicate things to us. And they will look at that, examine that, and reveal it for us. The social and psychological effects of style. Now, that's an interesting thing because the movie style has changed radically in the last several years. Thanks an awful lot to the music videos on television, that movie style has changed. There's a lot more cutting than there has been in movies, where you cut so much within a scene, and it's kind of a rapid-paced cutting. And it's especially there, you see that especially with television. I always hate to equate the two, but it's hard, it's very difficult to separate them now. But in television, where the style is this cut, 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 and when you have a stationary camera, the camera moves. It's not on a tripod as such. It's just moving all the time, sometimes very subtly. Other times it's bouncing around like this. And what does that have? Well, how does that affect us? As Raymond Durnyat once said, he says it does a lot. It affects a lot of us because it's diversionary. It makes it so you can't look at some crappy scenes because you're caught so much just looking at the style. You're looking at the form. Oh yeah, it's moving. Oh, I get it. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's moving. I get it. I see. Okay. And also the mutual influence of society and popular culture, which are practically inseparable. What is it? It's the old question. Does the movie depicting what it does it alter your way of life? Does it alter your way of seeing the world? Or does it simply reflect what you're doing? And the famous, the famous issue is violence. Does a lot of violent films cause you to go out and become a mad slasher killer? Or does the film just simply reflect what's already out there, which are mad slasher killers? And the answer to that is an easy answer. The answer is yes. As psychologists continue to say, yeah, it works both ways. There are mad slasher killers. There's no question about that. But also the movies can affect those mad slasher killers to go out and do more mad slashing. But then it becomes a political issue as well. How do you deal with that and all of those? Well, that's something that we deal with in this video series. Exactly what is it? What is this influence that it has? It works both ways. It's a two-way street. All right. The schedule works this way. You already have this down, I'm sure. Each lesson is 60 minutes. I look at it this way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be talking to you. The movies are going to be talking to you. The videos are talking to you. They are documentary videos. So what's nice about that is you're going to watch each week a documentary about a certain aspect of Hollywood history. And you'll see great clips, from the great films, film clips, all of this sort of thing. So I think it's going to be very interesting for you. It's not just simply a lecture. But I call that, your lecture. That's kind of how the class is going to work. So you have this so-called 60-minute lecture for you. And one of the nice things about this class is that you don't have to be watching it over the cable systems. It is available online. That long, as you can see right there, that long address is to the Annenberg site, and every video is there, and you can watch them whenever you want to. You can watch them once, twice, 3 times, how many you want. You can watch them all this week if you so desire, or whatever, because they are available online, and that's a nice thing, and it really helps when it comes time for the exams. So what else do we do? Okay, the next time I will talk to you is on February 2nd. I will have a midterm review. I will just talk to you and tell you what will be on the midterm. Then you will take the midterm on February 5th through February 12th. I give you 1 week only, like they used to do with many movies. It's only on 1 week only. And you will take that in the testing lab, which is over that way. Anyway, you'll take it here on campus and in the testing lab, and then I will see you again for the final review, which is on March 9th and in this building. And you don't have to be here, by the way, because this will be broadcast live across the cable systems, but it is also recorded, and it will be online as soon as the engineers get it all worked out. It'll be online the next day, so you can watch it at your convenience online. Okay, and then the final exam, which is the 12th through the 19th. Again, 1 week only. And you'll have to check the availability of the hours of the testing lab, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So what do we do then? Okay, so yeah, I see it kind of sounds like you're saying we take some exams. That's right. So what do we do? Well, first of all, I have to give you this LCC warning. Students must physically attend at least 1 class session during the first week of the term for that class. If it is an online distance education class, students must participate in 1 online class activity to avoid being no-show dropped. For FA255, you must complete the request the first week in Moodle under the heading Check-in. So what you have to do, now this is all a bunch of stuff that the college is requiring. What this means is you have to check in this week on Moodle. You'll find it on Moodle. It says something like required check-in. All it is a very simple kind of a statement. And all I want you to do is tell me on there why you took the class, number 1. And number 2, out of curiosity this time around, what's your favorite movie? And, you know, this will be shared with others so that they'll look at it and say, you really like that movie? I can't believe it. And also your favorite genre, what it is. It's an exercise of just simply breaking the ice. I will read that, and what it'll tell me isn't a lot about you and, you know, hopefully what you want to get out of this class. I can't really change the structure of it, but I can be there to say, okay, you told me that you want to get this out of the class. Okay, come and talk to me, you know, if you do something that's not too sharp on the exam. And we can work it out so that it does work to your advantage. Because this is all about you, it's not about me. It's about you getting something out of this class. And my assumption is that most people take this course because they like movies. And they want to know as much as they can about what movies are all about. I like movies. I like to learn all about movies. And I like to talk about movies. And so I like to sit down and talk to you about movies and to help you get what you need out of it. So that's essentially how that works. So the next thing is, of course, you watch the movies, the video programs. As we already mentioned, you know, 1 a week. It's at that address. Again, don't panic. If you can't write that all down, it's in the syllabus. You'll read appropriate sections of the text. That, again, it complements what the videos are talking about. And then you'll take notes. That is, if you have to. Some people are just geniuses. They just store all that information in the head, and they can bring it back when they want to. Some of us have to take notes. But you can take notes about things that you go, wow, I didn't know that, or I'll never remember that stuff, so I better write it down. Then what will happen is you will go into what is really required in the course, and that is, as I've already mentioned, the exams. That's all that is required of you. 2, that's all. 2 exams, a midterm and a final. All right? That's all you got to do. You don't have to turn in papers each week. You don't have to do anything else other than take the exams. Aha, but I see some looks on people's faces that are going, yeah, that's what he says, but what kind of exams are these going to be? Yeah, they're going to be comprehensive exams. They will be. They will be. So you better pay close attention to what you see on the screen, and it might be to your advantage to write down a lot of stuff that is confusing to you, but the exams are 50 questions each, so the midterm's 50 questions, the final's 50 questions. You'll take them in the social science testing lab in the center building, 456. You will need a photo ID, and you need your L number when you get in there. Always check to verify their business hours. You can find that on their website. That's easy to look there. And also, you are allowed 1 3x5 card with you. They will not allow anything else. All my exams used to be open book, but in the testing lab, they won't allow that. But you can take a 3x5 card, and, you know, usually somebody says, can that be front and back? And yeah, it can be, as long as it's just one. And what I do is I always just tell you, the stuff that you know, don't worry about it. When you watch these videos and you go, and you're a movie fan, and you watch these videos, you say, oh, I know all that stuff. And then it pops up, and then just for the sake of argument here, an example is the aspect ratio. Oh, I don't know what that means. I can never remember what an aspect ratio is and why that's got to do with anything. That's what you put on your note card, because you say, if I can't remember what CinemaScope 2.55 or 2.35 to 1 is, well, I'll write it down. And that way, if he asks me that question, I whip out that card and I say, I've got the answer right there. Okay. You are responsible for your exam. It is your responsibility to make the exam date and time. And I emphasize that because, you know, they have hours of operation over there. And if they say they close at 6 o'clock, that doesn't mean that you go in at 5:59 to take the exam. That would mean you'd have to be there a lot earlier than that, because they lock the doors at that time and they will kick you out if you're done or not. So do check their hours of availability. Also on Moodle, towards the midterm and towards the final, I will make available to you a study guide. That study guide will list all of the stuff that we have talked about up to that point, up to the midterm. So you can download that study guide, you can look through it and you say, I know all that stuff. I'm getting an A. Or you can look through it and you say, I have been asleep all term because I haven't any idea what he's talking about. I'm in trouble. But the study guide will be there to assist you in passing the exam. Now, I also offer this, extra credit, yes. Only if you want to do it. And that's for people that just want to have some insurance. It's for the people who usually are about midterm time, they realize I have been asleep. I have no idea what's going on in this class, and I just flunked the midterm. What can I do to make up the midterm? And I can say you can do the extra credit. And there are 2 options. You can write a paper on the production elements of a single sequence of any film produced before 1970. And the reason I do that is to make you watch a movie that you wouldn't otherwise watch. And I could really, really destroy your life, really upset you and say it has to be in black and white. Okay? But anything, and it's in detail, it's in the syllabus, explains the detail on that. Or secondly, if you're so inclined, produce your own narrative or documentary production, about 10 minutes worth. If you're really into filmmaking, show me what you can do, and I'll count that. Okay, details. are in the deluxe syllabus available on Moodle for download. If you're confused, bewildered, rattled, depressed, and desperate like I am, stop by during office hours or send me an email and I'll try to confuse you even more. Okay. The program schedule works this way. The first thing is all about classic Hollywood style. That's not just simply old. Classic doesn't mean old. It's a way of making films. They'll talk about that. Then they go into the studio system, the movie factory. Then they'll talk about that phenomenal thing called the star, the person that people really went to the movies to see. They wanted to see someone, sure, they went to see a novelty item in the very beginning, but the same people keep showing up and they say, I want to see more movies that featured this person. Then you go into genre, and they talk about the wonderful genre of the Western, which is solely American. It began in American cinema. It's the mythic history of the country, and then picked up and done amazing things with by the Italians in the 1960s. The romantic comedy. Then they moved to the combat film. Everybody else calls it a war movie. They call it the combat film. Then they go into everybody's favorite genre, film noir. If the question is it really a genre or is it a style? Because a lot of film genre, what we see is defined by the look of the film. Then it moves into my favorite topic, film in the television age. What was going on in the 1950s? Post-war, actually. What happened to movies post-war? Very interesting period. Then it moves into the film school generation, where suddenly you can go to college to become a filmmaker. Before that, nobody went to college. If you went to college, you were a writer, you were an artist, you were something like that, and then you started making films. And then you go to college and they teach you how to make films. And then the edge of Hollywood, which is where, for them, which is about 15 years old, for them, what is really going on? You know, Hollywood, it's not, as I mentioned earlier, a movie's just not a movie anymore. A movie involves all kinds of other things. Okay, there again, those are my 2 email addresses. You can send them to both of those addresses if you want. I check them throughout the day. It's the best way to communicate with me. Also, I want to remind you that you are responsible for the exam. You must check with the testing center for hours. There will be no makeup exams. And that is it. The end. Okay, now I can entertain questions. If anyone has any questions for the good of the order. Yes, sir.
For the midterm and the final, you take it online. You take it at the testing center, but where do you meet on the second? Or is it? There's 2 times we're supposed to meet with you.
Oh, okay. The question is, we're supposed to meet. The 6 to 6:30 thing. Okay, that would be in here, but again, you don't have to be here. That is going to be recorded. Yeah.
So can I do it online to meet? Or?
You don't have to meet with me. No.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I will be available here,
okay,
and I will give you the review for the exams. Okay. That's what that's all about.
All right.
Okay. Any other questions for the good of the order? Yes, sir.
Can we watch this again somehow?
This orientation?
Yes.
Yes, it is being recorded. They will tell me when it's online, and then I'll send an email to everybody saying, for all you people that are just dying to see this again, it'll be available at this time at this location, and they always end up sending me to YouTube. Oh my gosh. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, then I hear the music, so we're done. We made it, okay? That's it. We're done. Thanks.